So 6 months to finish the script
Mm-hmm.
for ECCO. So you started with, I know you said the ending changed at some point.
Yeah.
Are you outlining? What are you doing to begin this script?
I started with the first image of what I wanted the audience to see, which also changed. And I started with the pacing. And that's one thing that's very important that people know. And the marketing team could have done a better job with this. And they focused on other things. The pacing of it reminds you of like a European crime film. It's not an American, like I said, action picture. So I started with that, which is like, what's the tone of this? When people are talking with each other, are they saying what they mean or are they lying? And most of the scenes, they're saying what they think they can say, but there's a lot of other meaning. So for example, I knew that a 2-page dialogue scene was going to clock to like 3.5 minutes on film because I needed to give actors room to work. And so I took the treatment, which was, I would say it was thorough in some places and not thorough in other places. And I'll give you an example of that. The treatment that we did and that we do has no dialogue in it. And that's because the style of the dialogue I write is very specific. And most of the time what it is what's not said. And that takes tremendous acting talent to nail. And some audience members love that sense of like, I'm watching their look and it's not telling me the thing, but then it's going to an hour later. And other audience members don't like that. They want to be like, they want it to be very on the nose. I'm not going to be able to deliver the thing they want. I'm always going to deliver the other thing. So I remember starting to build, there's a timeline structure to the film. There's him and his life, and then there's what he's remembering about his past. And there are mirrors in the whole film. So I remember building the mirrors in the script first, and then being like, okay, this scene into this, and he's remembering this how, and this is how we're showing his memory, and this is how we reveal that. And I also was building a layered script in that the audience, it's an invitation for the audience to do work. It's not a very simple film to follow, and that's by design. I mean, Kubrick and Nolan, these are screenwriters. I'm not talking about their directing, which is masterful. I'm talking about their screenwriting. They're demanding. They say, I'm going to tell you a story, but you got to be in it. You got to be into this journey. One of the things we were joking around about at the premiere was, no one can go to the bathroom. If you go to the bathroom, don't come back because you're going to miss something, right? Obviously, if you're in a cinema, you can't control stopping a film. So when it's on VOD, people can stop it, or on Blu-ray. I started with structuring everything and structuring the way things were going to be revealed. And then I went into writing some scenes dialogue very meticulously. Some of those scenes, they just, you're like a channel. You're like, I know exactly what they say and I know exactly why they say it. And then other scenes, I always err on the side of no dialogue. I always err on the side of, I don't think people need to talk to say anything. So the script was very short at first. The first pass was like 78 pages. And then the final script was like 94. And the movie's 2 hours. So that means I'm a visual director that shows a lot of information without people talking. And that's how I began my process, by structure and then dialogue and then polishing the dialogue and then polishing the way I wanted the script to be read. Quentin Tarantino says something great. I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't know the exact quote. But he says, a script should be enjoyable for the reader. Whether it's made into a film or not, they should read it and enjoy reading it. And that's important for me. I'm very turned on by even scene description, not being overly written, but being specific and being character driven even. And so those are the things I start with.
And you knew you had this finance sort of ticking clock.
Uh-huh.
So where is Lathrop putting in his, is he really just doing more of the backstory on his character? How is he getting involved?
We had getting involved in the script. He didn't until there was a final script.
Oh.
So basically when I said I'm going to take it and I'm going to write it, I'm going to write it. And that's why it says written by me, right? And it's not an ego trip. It's like, it's written and directed by me because that's the way it's going to be, right? However, once there was a solid draft, right, which is like draft number dos, you know, he read it and we sat down and we talked about it. You know, I said, hey, do you have any questions? You know, let's talk about it, you know? And he was just starting to get into developing his character pretty thoroughly. So he's not coming at it from a writing perspective, he's coming at it from an acting perspective. And then what I told him I wanted to do was, I said, as I audition a person for this role or this role or this role, he may or may not be in the audition, right? He'll definitely not be in the audition. He'll be in the callback, maybe, or he'll be in like the screen test chemistry read, right? And I said, hey, just so you know, I'm watching these carefully and I'm revising as I go because I'm watching an actress's interpretation of a line and she's doing her art in that callback and you can get ideas from that. She's not improvising, she's not ad-libbing, but she might take a pause that's not there, or she might go through the scene and you might be like, oh man, I gotta cut a third of this. I don't need a third of this. That's never usually my problem. Usually what it is something's missing. Maybe an extra line here of clarification. He had, I would say he had like a handful of notes that were helpful because he's like, what about this? Or what about that? Or he'd say, I remember in one screen chemistry read, he did 2 or 3 lines in a row and he switched them up every time. And he didn't switch them up because he doesn't know his lines, because he's perfect in that capacity. He switched them up because he's like, let me try this. And I was like, yeah, man. And they were better. And so you go, okay, cool, that's great. And then the other thing that happened with the script was after it was in the can, I knew when the film was shot, I was like, I know I need to restructure this in the cut. So my structuring of events in the script the pacing wasn't right for what we got. And that's a reality of the relationship between what you think is going to work on the page and what you get on the day and what you get in your assembly. And your assembly is the truth. And there's no, you can read something on a page 100 times and be like, this is going to work. Totally. It's totally going to work. Totally. And then you shoot it and you go, something was weird about today, or something's weird about the movie you're putting together in your mind as you shoot. I'm building the movie, right, in my head. And I know it's going to come before and after something. I know the pacing of a moment. And you're on set that day and you're like, man, something's not working. And I don't know what it is yet. And then you put an assembly together and you go, I know exactly what the problem is. And you make 2 choices there. You restructure the cut with the material you have. And we had a lot of great material. So 80% of the story restructuring could happen in the cut. And then you figure out what's missing because of time or because you didn't know you wanted to add those shots to the story. And we knew when we started day 1 that we were going to do pickups and reshoots. We knew that before we even started. Not like a studio that might do 2 months or what have you, I don't know, or reshoot a whole, like World War Z, they shot like the last third of the movie again. But I knew that we were going to do a few days. And as the assembly came together, that 2 or 3 days turned into 6 days. And it really allowed me to, and it was mostly pickups. It was not reshoots. We only did, the stuff we reshot was like insert stuff that I wanted something tighter of, or a flashback moment I wanted something more significant of. So those are the reshoots. But everything else was shots that I knew I wanted during production that I was like, I'm going to get those later on. And so, yeah.